For 10,000 years, the Carvax Empire had known only one direction: forward, across the spiral arms of the galaxy. Their fleets moved like a dark tide. Planet after planet fell before them. Civilizations that had flourished for millions of years vanished in a matter of days once the Carvax banners appeared in orbit. 3,000 worlds, 3,000 victories, not a single defeat. The galaxy had stopped calling them conquerors long ago. Now, they were simply called inevitable. Entire star systems surrendered the moment Carvax ships appeared on their scanners. Resistance was pointless. Every species had learned the same brutal lesson. Fighting the Empire only made extinction arrive faster. The Carvax did not negotiate. They did not compromise. They conquered, and they never lost. Deep inside the Imperial capital ship Dominion Ascendant, Grand Admiral Varric Tal studied the holographic map of the Orion Arm. The glowing stars represented the Empire's latest campaign. Hundreds of systems already marked with the crimson sigil of Carvax rule. Another expansion. Another victory. Routine. Report, Varric said calmly. A thin alien officer stepped forward. His scales flickered nervously beneath the cold lights of the command chamber. Admiral, the scouting fleet has completed a survey of the outer systems. Most planets are uninhabited. Varric barely looked up. And inhabited ones... The officer hesitated. None possessed technology capable of resisting Imperial conquests. Then marked them for assimilation. Varric said, "Standard procedure." The officer nodded quickly, but he didn't step away. Varric finally turned toward him. "You have more to say." "Yes, Admiral." The officer activated the projection again. A small star appeared on the map. A yellow dwarf star. 8 orbiting planets. One highlighted in blue. This system contains a developing civilization. Varric studied it briefly. Industrial? Yes. Spacefaring? Barely. Then why are we discussing it? The officer swallowed. Because the scouts reported something unusual about the species. Varric leaned back in his command throne. Unusual how? They are unpredictable. The Admiral laughed quietly. Every species looked unpredictable before they were conquered. What is their name? The officer checked the report. They call themselves humans. The scout ship Carvax Talon. 9 had arrived in the Sol system 2 days earlier. Its crew expected the usual pattern. Scan the planet. Evaluate the defenses. Transmit the conquest recommendation. Instead, they found something strange. The planet was noisy. Thousands of transmissions flooded the airwaves. Signals bouncing across space in every direction. Music, conversations, news broadcasts, random chatter. Most civilizations shut down communications when alien ships appeared. These humans did the opposite. They got louder. "Commander," one of the scouts said nervously, "they're talking about us." The commander turned from the observation window. "What do you mean?" "They've already detected the ship." "That's impossible. Our stealth field." "They can't see us directly," the scout interrupted. "But they know something is here." The commander frowned. "How?" The scout replayed one of the intercepted transmissions. A human voice echoed through the bridge speakers. "Astronomers around the world are reporting unusual gravitational distortions near Earth orbit. Experts are investigating whether the phenomenon could indicate an unknown spacecraft." The bridge fell silent. "They're guessing," the commander said. Another transmission played. "If aliens are watching us, we hope they like pizza and terrible reality shows." The crew stared at each other. "What is pizza?" one of them asked. The commander ignored the question. "Continue scanning." The sensors swept across Earth again. Cities glowed across the continents. Satellites orbited the planet in dense networks. Aircraft moved constantly through the atmosphere. Billions of humans living chaotic, noisy lives. But something else stood out. The planet was covered with weapons. Thousands of them. Missile silos. Naval fleets. Military bases. The species spent enormous resources preparing for war. Against themselves. The commander studied the data in silence. "Commander," the sensor officer said slowly, "the humans are doing something. What? They're aiming their telescopes at us. The commander stared at the screen. They can't see us. No, but they know exactly where to look. Back on the Dominion Ascendant, Grand Admiral Varick finished reading the scouting report. For a long moment, the command chamber remained silent. Then the admiral smiled. "Paranoid primitives," he said. The officer shifted uneasily. "Admiral, there's one more note from the scout commander." Varick raised an eyebrow. "Read it." The officer hesitated before speaking. "The commander recommends caution." "Caution?" Varick repeated. "Yes. He believes the species may respond aggressively to an invasion." The admiral laughed loudly this time. Across the bridge, dozens of officers joined him. Aggression was common. It had never mattered before. Varick stood and dismissed the report with a wave of his hand. "Prepare the conquest fleet," he ordered. "How many ships, Admiral?" Varick glanced once more at the small blue planet on the star map. Then he gave the same order he had given 3,000 times before. "Standard invasion force." The crimson Carvax sigil appeared above Earth on the holographic display. Just another world. Just another victory. But far away in the Sol system, billions of humans continued watching the stars. And slowly, quietly, they were starting to realize something was watching back. For 3,000 conquered worlds, the pattern had always been the same. The Carvax fleet arrived, the sky filled with black ships, and within hours, the planet below descended into chaos. Governments collapsed. Military forces scrambled in panic. Entire civilizations begged for mercy before the first shot was even fired. Fear was the Empire's greatest weapon. But Earth did something different. When the first Carvax warships dropped out of hyperspace near the edge of the solar system, their scanners immediately detected thousands of signals erupting across the planet. Television broadcasts, emergency transmissions, military communications. The Carvax commander aboard the battlecruiser Iron Dominion expected the usual signs of collapse: panic, riots, mass surrender messages. Instead, he heard something strange. Human voices, arguing. "I'm telling you, those lights near Saturn are not asteroids. That's ridiculous. You think aliens traveled across the galaxy just to visit us? Why not? We've been broadcasting our location for 100 years. Okay, but if they're hostile, why haven't they attacked yet?" The commander stared at the signal analysis screen. "Are they debating our existence?" "Yes, Commander." Another transmission came through. NASA and several international observatories have confirmed unknown objects entering the solar system. Governments are urging calm while they investigate. The commander blinked. "Calm? Why calm?" The invasion fleet consisted of 200 warships, each capable of destroying continents. Every other species in the galaxy would already be surrendering. But Earth wasn't surrendering. Earth was discussing. Hours later, the Carvax fleet reached the orbit of Mars. The commander issued the first official message to the planet. The broadcast translated automatically into dozens of human languages. The message was simple. "Attention, inhabitants of Earth. Your planet now belongs to the Carvax Empire. Surrender immediately and you will be spared." The signal echoed across Earth's satellites, television stations, and communication networks. For the first time, the commander expected fear. Instead, the human internet exploded. Millions of messages flooded global networks. Memes, jokes, conspiracy theories. One viral message appeared on thousands of screens. "Aliens just declared war on Earth. Does this mean I still have to go to work tomorrow?" Another post followed seconds later. "If aliens invade during tax season, I'm joining them." The Carvax signal officer stared at the screen. "Commander, they are mocking us." The commander narrowed his eyes. That will change soon. But something else was happening. While civilians joked online, Earth's militaries moved quickly and quietly. Radar systems locked onto the alien fleet. Satellites shifted their positions. Missile defenses activated across continents. Inside underground command centers, human generals studied the alien ships carefully. They didn't rush to attack. They observed, measured, calculated. A human scientist pointed at the tactical screen. Notice their formation, she said. They're maintaining strict geometric spacing. A military officer frowned. So it means their shields overlap. The room fell silent. Which means, the general asked, it means their defense systems were designed for fleet warfare. Another scientist nodded. And that also means they might have a blind spot. Across the world, thousands of analysts were studying the alien fleet simultaneously. Every movement, every signal, every weakness. Humans had not panicked. They had started learning. Back on the Iron Dominion, the Carvax commander was growing impatient. Why have they not surrendered? He demanded. The communications officer hesitated. Commander, the humans are still transmitting. Begging for mercy? No. The officer replayed the intercepted message. A human news anchor appeared on the screen. Governments worldwide had confirmed contact with extraterrestrial forces. Officials state that humanity will respond collectively. Citizens are urged to remain calm while defense preparations continue. The commander blinked. Defense preparations? Yes, Commander. The Carvax bridge erupted in laughter. Preparing defenses against the Empire was like trying to stop a tidal wave with a wall of sand. The commander turned toward the navigation officer. Move the fleet into Earth orbit. Yes, Commander. Hundreds of alien warships accelerated toward the blue planet. From space, Earth looked peaceful. White clouds drifting across oceans. Cities glowing faintly in the darkness. A fragile world. A primitive civilization. Just another conquest. But as the fleet approached Earth's atmosphere, the sensor officer suddenly froze. Commander, what is it? There are thousands of targeting systems locking onto our ships. The commander scoffed. Primitive weapons cannot penetrate Imperial shields. Yes, but that's not the strange part. Then what is... The officer stared at the screen. They're not firing. Of course not, the commander said confidently. They know resistance is pointless. But the officer slowly shook his head. No, Commander, they're waiting. The commander frowned. Waiting for what? On the screen surrounding the bridge, Earth's continents lit up with hundreds of new signals. Missile systems, aircraft squadrons, orbital defenses, all activating at once. The sensor officer whispered the words every Carvax commander had heard on conquered worlds countless times before. Except this time, it felt different. Commander, I believe the humans are preparing for war. For 10,000 years, the Carvax Empire had followed the same conquest strategy. It had never failed. First came orbital dominance. Then came planetary bombardment. Finally, ground forces descended to claim what remained. 3,000 worlds had fallen to that formula. Earth would be the 3,001st. At least, that was what the Empire believed. High above the planet, the Carvax fleet formed its standard assault formation. 200 warships spread across orbit like a ring of black blades. On the bridge of the Iron Dominion, Commander Zirathval watched the planet rotate slowly beneath them. Beautiful, fragile, defenseless. Prepare orbital bombardment, he ordered. The weapons officer nodded. Targeting human military installations. Across the fleet, enormous plasma cannons began charging. Their energy signatures lit up the darkness of space like distant stars. On Earth, thousands of warning alarms screamed across military command centers. Satellite images confirmed the worst. The alien ships were powering their weapons. Inside a massive underground command bunker, General Daniel Carter studied the tactical display. The alien fleet surrounded Earth in a perfect circle. They're about to fire, one of his officers said quietly. Carter nodded. Yeah. Another officer looked uneasy. Sir, we can't stop 200 alien warships. Carter leaned forward. Maybe not. He tapped the screen. But we don't have to stop them. The room turned toward him. We just have to survive the first strike. In orbit, Commander Zirath raised a clawed hand. Fire. 200 beams of burning plasma fell toward Earth. The attack should have ended the war before it began. But the moment the weapons fired, something unexpected happened. Across Earth's continents, hundreds of missiles launched simultaneously. From deserts, from submarines, from hidden silos buried deep underground. Thousands of rockets shot into the sky. The Carvax bridge erupted with confusion. What are they doing? Primitive retaliation, Zirith said calmly. They believe their weapons can reach us. The sensor officer hesitated. Commander, they aren't targeting the ships. Zirith frowned. Then what are they targeting? The officer pointed at the screen. Our weapons. The missiles collided with the falling plasma beams halfway between Earth and orbit. Explosions filled the upper atmosphere. The blast disrupted the energy streams just enough that the beams scattered across the sky instead of striking their intended targets. Most burned harmlessly in the atmosphere. Others struck oceans or empty land. The damage was minimal. On the Iron Dominion, silence filled the bridge. That should not be possible, Zira said slowly. The sensor officer stared at the data. They predicted the trajectory of our weapons. Impossible. They calculated the firing angles before we even launched. Ziritha's eyes narrowed. How? No one answered. Back on Earth, General Carter allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 successful, he said. One of the analysts looked shocked. Sir, that shouldn't have worked. Carter shrugged. They have better weapons. But we have better math. The alien fleet quickly recovered. Commander Zirith slammed a claw against the console. Launch fighter squadrons. Hundreds of sleek alien attack craft poured from the warships. They streaked toward Earth like a storm of black arrows. Destroy their missile systems, Zirith ordered. The fighters accelerated into the atmosphere. For a moment, it looked like the invasion would finally begin. Then Earth responded again. From dozens of aircraft carriers and air bases, human fighters launched to intercept. F-35s, Eurofighters, Su-57s, dozens of different aircraft from different nations suddenly fighting side by side. The Carvax pilots laughed at first. Their ships were faster, stronger, more advanced. But the laughter didn't last long, because human pilots did something the Empire had never seen before. They adapted. Within minutes, the first wave of alien fighters was destroyed. Missiles adjusted their targeting mid-flight. Electronic warfare jammed alien sensors. Human aircraft began coordinating across multiple nations and satellites. The sky turned into chaos. On the Iron Dominion, the sensor officer's voice trembled. Commander, we are losing fighters. How many? 30, no, 40, 50? Ziritha's eyes widened. Impossible. The Empire had fought thousands of space battles. They had never lost a fighter squadron. Never. The number kept climbing. 70 destroyed. 80. 90. Zirith stared at the tactical display. Human aircraft were weaving through alien formations like predators, learning, adjusting, improving every second. Back in the underground bunker, General Carter listened to the combat reports. A young officer looked stunned. Sir, we're actually winning the air battle. Carter shook his head. No. He pointed toward the orbital display. Look again. 200 alien warships still hovered above Earth, and their weapons were charging again. This time, stronger. This was just their warm-up, Carter said quietly. The room fell silent. So what happens now? Someone asked. Carter leaned back in his chair. Well, he said calmly, now the aliens find out something about humans. The officer looked at him. What? Carter smiled slightly. We learn fast. And high above the planet, the Carvax Empire was about to learn the same thing. The Carvax Empire had conquered 3,000 worlds. They had fought warriors with claws, plasma weapons, biological armies, and entire planetary defense grids. Some civilizations had been stronger than others. Some had resisted longer. But they had all shared one weakness. Once the battle began, their strategies never changed. They fought the same way from beginning to end. The Empire had always been able to predict them. Always. Until now. High above Earth, the Carvax fleet prepared its second strike. Commander Ziraval stood silently on the bridge of the Iron Dominion, staring at the tactical display. The first wave of fighters had been destroyed. Nearly 100 ships lost. That had never happened before. But the Empire was still in control. 200 warships remained in orbit, and their heavy weapons were now fully charged. This time, Zira said coldly, we erase the defenses completely. The weapons officer nodded. Planetary bombardment ready. Across the fleet, massive cannons began glowing with intense blue light. The next strike would not miss. Down on Earth, global command centers monitored the alien fleet carefully. Inside the underground bunker, General Daniel Carter watched the same weapons charging on the tactical display. They're adjusting their firing pattern, one analyst said. Carter nodded. They learned from the first attack. Another officer frowned. Sir, if they fire that many weapons at once, we can't intercept them all. Carter leaned over the screen. No, we can't. The room grew tense. So what do? Carter looked toward another group of scientists working in the corner of the room. Did the simulations finish? A young engineer turned around. Yes, sir. And she took a deep breath. It might work. In orbit, Commander Zirith raised his hand again. Fire. The second bombardment began. Hundreds of plasma beams tore toward Earth. But this time, the humans didn't launch missiles. For a moment, the Carvax bridge fell silent. No defensive response detected, the sensor officer said. Zirith smiled slightly. Finally, then something strange happened. The plasma beams began to flicker. Small distortions rippled across their energy streams. The weapons officer frowned. Commander, our targeting systems are losing stability. What? Our beams are drifting. Correct the trajectory. We're trying. The beams twisted unpredictably as they descended. Instead of striking military targets, they scattered across empty deserts and oceans. The attack missed again. Zirith slammed his claw onto the console. What is happening? The sensor officer scanned the data. Then his voice went quiet. Commander, Earth has deployed thousands of satellites. So, they're broadcasting electromagnetic interference. Zirith stared at him. They're jamming our weapons? Yes, but the interference is constantly changing. How? The officer swallowed. The humans are rewriting the signal patterns in real time. Back on Earth, the scientists watched the results nervously. On their screens, alien weapons drifted away from their targets. The engineer exhaled slowly. It worked. General Carter nodded. Barely. The officer beside him looked amazed. They built that system in one day. Carter smiled faintly. That's humans. When something tries to kill us, we get creative. In orbit, the Carvax fleet prepared to launch ground forces. If orbital strikes failed, conquest would proceed the traditional way. Planetary invasion. Thousands of drop ships prepared to descend into Earth's atmosphere. Commander Zirith watched the preparations coldly. Deploy invasion troops. Yes, Commander. Hundreds of drop ships launched toward the planet. Armored alien soldiers prepared to claim another world. But halfway through their descent, every ship suddenly lost power. The bridge erupted in alarm. Commander, our drop ships are shutting down. What? Navigation systems are failing. The ships tumbled through the atmosphere uncontrollably. Some barely managed emergency landings. Others crashed into the ocean. Zirith turned toward the sensor officer. Explain. The officer looked pale. Commander, Earth's satellites are hacking our systems. Hacking? They're injecting code directly into our navigation computers. Zirith stared at him in disbelief. That technology should not exist on a primitive world. The officer shook his head slowly. They built it after we arrived. Down in the bunker, the human analysts watched the chaos unfold in orbit. Alien ships spinning, drop pods crashing, the invasion collapsing before it even reached the ground. A young officer whispered, Sir, they conquered 3,000 worlds. Carter nodded. I know, but none of those worlds were human. The officer looked at him. What makes humans different? Carter leaned back in his chair. We don't just fight wars. We invent during them. High above the planet, Commander Zira stared at the disaster unfolding around him. Fighters destroyed, weapons disrupted, dropships disabled. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Carvax Empire was losing control of a battle. Slowly, the sensor officer spoke again. Commander, Zira didn't look away from the screen. What now? The officer hesitated. Human satellites are repositioning again. Why? The officer swallowed. I believe they are preparing a counterattack. For the first time since the invasion began, Commander Zira felt something unfamiliar. Concern, because the Empire had just learned the most dangerous truth about humanity. Humans didn't just survive war. They got better at it. For 10,000 years, the Carvax Empire had never known defeat. Not once. 3,000 worlds had fallen before them. Entire civilizations had surrendered within hours of seeing the black warships of the Empire. The Carvax believed a simple truth. Victory was inevitable. But now, above a small blue planet called Earth, that certainty was beginning to crumble. On the bridge of the Iron Dominion, Commander Zirathval stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Fighter squadrons destroyed. Orbital bombardment disrupted. Dropships disabled. Human satellites swarmed the battlefield like insects, constantly shifting positions. Every minute, the humans changed something. New signals, new tactics, new weapons. Commander, the sensor officer said nervously, human systems are adapting faster than we can counter them. Ziratha's voice was cold. Then we escalate. He turned toward the communications officer. Send a message to the fleet. Yes, Commander. Activate protocol annihilation. The officer froze. Commander, that protocol has only been used against advanced civilizations. Ziratha's eyes remained fixed on the screen. Then consider humanity advanced. Across the Carvax fleet, the largest weapons ever deployed by the Empire began powering up. Planet breaker cannons, devices designed to shatter continents. If the humans would not surrender, Earth would simply be erased. Charging annihilation weapons, the weapons officer reported. Energy readings surged across the fleet. The next strike would destroy entire cities. Deep beneath a mountain in North America, General Daniel Carter watched the same energy signatures appear on the tactical display. The room fell silent. One of the analysts whispered, "Sir, those weapons are massive." Carter nodded slowly. "They're done playing." Another officer looked worried. "Can we stop them?" Carter studied the screen carefully. Then he turned toward the engineers again. "Is the system ready?" A scientist hesitated. "We've never tested it at this scale." "That wasn't my question." The scientist swallowed. "Yes, sir." Carter nodded. "Then let's show them something." High above Earth, Commander Zirath raised his hand. Fire. Dozens of planet breaker weapons discharged at once. The beams of energy were enormous, far larger than anything the humans had faced before. They raced toward Earth like falling suns. On the Iron Dominion, the bridge crew watched in satisfaction. This would end the battle. No planet could survive that level of firepower. But then, every Carvax screen suddenly flickered. Warning alarms erupted across the fleet. "Commander, what now?" "Our targeting systems." The officer stopped mid-sentence. Every display on the bridge went dark. Then they all lit up again. But the images were different. Instead of tactical data, a message appeared across every screen. White letters on a black background. "Hello." The bridge went silent. Zirath stared at the message. "What is this?" The sensor officer spoke quietly. "Commander, human systems have infiltrated our network." Ziratha's eyes widened. "That's impossible." "They're inside every ship." Across the fleet, weapons suddenly powered down. Engines flickered. Navigation systems froze. Hundreds of alien warships hung helplessly in orbit. The Empire's most advanced fleet completely paralyzed. On Earth, the engineers erupted in cheers. The experimental cyber warfare system had worked. Human satellites had slowly infiltrated the alien fleet's communications network over the past several hours, studying, learning, adapting, until finally they found the opening. General Carter folded his arms calmly. "Send a message." "Yes, sir." Across every Carvac ship in orbit, the message changed. The new text appeared slowly on their screens. A single sentence. "You conquered 3,000 worlds." The bridge crew watched in stunned silence. Then the rest of the message appeared. None of them were human. Moments later, Earth's hidden orbital weapons fired. Hundreds of experimental railguns launched tungsten projectiles into space at incredible speed. The alien ships could not move. Their shields were offline. The impact was devastating. One warship exploded. Then another. Then another. Within minutes, the sky above Earth was filled with burning debris. The Carvac's fleet was being destroyed. Commander Zira stood frozen on the bridge of the Iron Dominion as explosions erupted across the tactical display. Ships vanished one by one. His fleet, his empire, destroyed by a species that had discovered alien technology only hours earlier. The censor officer whispered, "Commander, we're losing everything." Zirith closed his eyes. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Carvac's empire had been defeated. Hours later, the last surviving Carvac ship fled the Sol system. The invasion was over. Earth had won, but humanity did something unexpected. They did not pursue the retreating fleet. They did not launch a counter-invasion. Instead, humanity transmitted a single message across the galaxy, a message every civilization would hear, a message the Carvac's empire would never forget. You conquered the galaxy because none of those worlds were human, and from that day forward, no empire would ever underestimate Earth again.